All right, guys, today we're talking about the psychoanalytics perspective, more importantly, the defense mechanisms. So we talked about in class how there's these three part of our brain, I guess you could say, our personality, the id, the ego, and the superego, and that's what makes up our personality. Um, and how we say that they're constant in battle. The id wants to do, everything now, and they want to have it now. The super ego is like, what should you do, and like the angel on your shoulder, and then the ego is trying to balance those other two out. Well, that creates a conflict. If there's three parts of ourselves that are constantly in battle with each other, that creates some sort of tension, some sort of feeling of uneasiness. And so what we do is we try to have defense mechanisms to cool off that easiness, to calm everything down. And there's a whole bunch of defense mechanisms that Freud came up with. The very first one is just denial. If you've ever heard, they're just in denial, that is a defense mechanism. You're not going to see that too much in the AP exam. They're going to focus more on the ones that people don't necessarily know about, but denial could possibly show up on there if you just don't accept it to be true or you're living in denial. One of them is repression. Repression is the defense mechanism that is used a lot on the AP test, as where someone represses a memory and they just do not remember it. So if you have something that happened to you that caused you so much anxiety and so much stress that you just choose not to remember it. If you had a bad relationship that, years after the fact, you can't even recall their name. It's like, how do you not remember their name? You've repressed that memory. You've pushed it way deep down in that iceberg that you don't even remember anymore. It's active forgetting. Another one is regression. Regression is like you are going back to an earlier stage of development. And this is all Freud talking, so he's talking about an earlier stage of his psychosexual development. Remember, we had the oral, anal, phallic, latency, genital stage, so you're going to be going back to one of those. Something that's going to cause you so much anxiety, maybe you'll go back and to the oral phase. You'll start like biting your nails, or you'll start like being a thumb sucker. Maybe you'll go back to a stage where you're wetting the bed, or you're just acting like a child again, an adult having a tantrum. That would be an active regression. There's reaction formation. This one, I like this one. This is where you do the exact opposite of your anxious feelings. So you have all this anxious feelings, all this conflict within you, and so you act the exact opposite. So if anyone remembers, that show, Hey Arnold, with the little kid with the football head, and then the girl that was always mean to him, Helga. Helga was in love with Arnold. She had like a shrine in her bedroom devoted to him, but in public she was so mean to him. She ridiculed him, because that's reaction formation. She was doing the exact opposite of her true feelings. A lot of people say that that people that are very against homosexuality and that are like gay bashers, secretly, deep down, they're gay. That's an example of reaction formation, that, all these people that are just going so against it, they're actually for it silently and privately. Projection. When you project your feelings on someone else, it's someone else's fault. So if you are failing a class, maybe it's a class that it's a subject that you thought you were good at. I've always been good at math. But then you're finally getting to a really difficult math class and you're failing. And you're going to project that anxious feelings of maybe you're just not that smart. Maybe you're not as good as you thought. And you're going to project and be like, well, the teacher just doesn't like me, or the tests aren't fair, or we never have learned anything in that class. It's very possible that those may be true, but it's also very possible that you're just not as smart as you think you are, and that gives you anxiety. And so you put those feelings on someone else. It's someone else's fault that you feel the way you do. And then there's rationalization. You rationalize itself. You talk yourself into that the feelings are not that big of a deal. Alcoholics do this all the time. Their drinking is not that much. everyone drinks. It's not that bad, and they rationalize it. People that have shopping addictions, same thing. They rationalize, well, I need this, and I might need this, and it was on sale, and look how much money I saved. I had to go out and get it because if I don't, it'll be gone later. I mean, those are all just talking yourself into it, so to make it seem okay. There's displacement. Displacement is something you see in TV a lot, it seems like. Displacement is you are displacing your anger, your tension, your feelings onto an unsuspecting thing. You slam the door when you're angry. You're displacing your feelings on the door. The door didn't do anything to you. Let's say you don't get the promotion at work, so you go home and you pick a fight with your spouse, or you're angry with your spouse, and so you are harsh to your kids. So you're displacing your anger on an unsuspecting, undeserving thing. And that's different than sublimation. Sublimation is you're focusing that anger and aggression on something else, but in a positive way. You could go out and be like, you're angry from something that happened at work, so you go out and you take an exercise class, like a boxing class, and you punch a punching bag. Or some people, a lot of artists are, whether it's sculpture, musicians, poets, they have a lot of darkness inside of them, and that darkness they feel better after they do some sort of expressive art. They create a sculpture, or they write a song, or whatever, or novel. And so sublimation is a little bit different than displacement. Both of them are getting anger and frustration and aggression and tension out. Displacement is in a socially negative way, but sublimation is in a socially acceptable way, like exercise or sports. Sports is a really good example of people taking aggression, take it out on the field. That's sublimation. That is completely acceptable. Taking it out on your spouse when you get home, not socially acceptable. That would be displacement. Okay, so in class we're going to learn a couple more. There's one where the compensation, when you feel bad about something, so you compensate in a much larger way. People say like, oh, look at the really, really big truck that's like jacked up and huge tires. They're compensating for something. I think there was a reference in Shrek when Shrek enters far away, and the little king or whatever he was tiny, but his castle was huge, and like you think he's compensating for something. So that right there is the defense mechanism as well, to compensate for your shortcomings. So we'll talk more about that in class. We're going to do an activity with defense mechanisms, and hopefully if you have any questions, you can leave it on this video on Google Classroom or whatever. See you in class.